Ever since the arrival of the refreshed Model 3 last year, Tesla fans have been eagerly awaiting an update on their best-selling Model Y. The newest version of the Model 3 introduced so many great improvements over its predecessor that by comparison the Model Y was starting to show its age. A few weeks ago, Tesla finally announced that updated Model Y, and it seemed to bring all of those improvements and even more. While this new version seems like it could only be described as a complete improvement over its predecessor, some people may not actually want what it has to offer. Today we're going to break down some of the reasons why some customers may want to pick an older Model Y over this recent update, so let's get into it, and a special thanks to Lectric for sponsoring this video. A few weeks ago, Tesla officially unveiled the refreshed Model Y out of China, and then a few weeks later, it became available to order in most major markets, including the US. Right off the bat, we can see the first potential reason that some people may shy away from this refreshed version: the price. Right now, the new Model Y is available in only one configuration, the launch series of the long-range all-wheel drive trim. Much like what we saw with the Foundation Series Cybertruck, Tesla is beginning production of this new vehicle with a fully featured, upcharged version that comes with all of the options included. When all is said and done, that launch series Model Y comes in at a retail price of $59,990, compared to the existing long-range all-wheel drive version, which only costs $47,990. That's a $12,000 upcharge to buy this new car. Now, this won't be the normal price for that particular vehicle, but as it stands right now, that is the only version that you can buy. For the average person, that price differential is a huge deterrent right out of the gate. Assuming you aren't immediately put off by that price, though, you may be dissuaded by the addition of certain options that you might not care about. When you buy a launch series Model Y, that $12,000 upcharge isn't just a pointless upcharge. It does include all of the different options for this car that you would have to opt in for on an older version. That includes the FSD package, which normally costs $8,000, any of the included paint options, some of which cost up to $2,000, the $2,000 20-inch wheels, the $1,000 tow package, $1,000 white seats, and a $275 mobile charger. All of those features cumulatively add up to $14,275, over $2,000 more than the upcharge for this new car. At the same time, it comes with special launch series specific upgrades, like a special liftgate badge, a puddle light badge, a door sill plate word mark, a charging console word mark, a premium textile trim, and a vegan suede for the black interior. Buying this version only makes sense if you especially want the upgraded Model Y, and we're planning on getting most of these options anyway, though. Tesla is choosing to reward those customers by giving them the earliest access with those extra badges and upgrades to show off your early adopter status. If you don't want any of those extras, the value proposition declines pretty significantly. If so, you may be better served by waiting for standard production of this car, or by ordering the current model in exactly the configuration you want. One of the other big changes that came with this new iteration of the Model Y was its completely redesigned exterior. Of course, there were a lot of big changes that came to this car under the hood, but the first thing that anyone will notice is how different it looks. The old Model Y, despite being really innovative across the board, still looked like a pretty standard car at the end of the day. When Tesla started updating their most popular models, they wanted to completely revamp their look and feel. The original Model 3 and Y looked very similar to one another, and that was by design. The Model Y was actually built using a great majority of the same parts, and was essentially a stretched and enlarged Model 3. Now, with these two refreshes, they pushed them into completely different directions. The Model 3 looks fast and sleek, and the Model Y looks like it stepped right out of the future. It has two light bars now, with one across the front and another that reflects off of the back. This visually aligns it more closely with the Cybertruck and Cybercab. A lot of people like this new look, but at the end of the day, all taste is subjective and you might disagree. You could just want a car that looks more traditional or like any other Tesla already on the road, and if that's the case, you would probably want to stick to the existing model. Next up today, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Lectric. Lectric e-bikes is one of America's fastest growing electric bike brands, having sold over 500,000 e-bikes in 5 years. Lectric's e-bikes are very easy to use, many come pre-assembled, and ones that require it can be assembled in about 5 minutes. Here I am assembling my Express and taking it for a ride. Everything about it is refined, and coming from a different e-bike myself, this one really takes it to the next level. It's that difference you feel with a vehicle that is just clearly more refined and designed from the ground up to be electric. A very cool statistic as well is that their flagship Lectric XP is the third most popular electric vehicle nationwide, just behind the Tesla Model Y and 3. In 2023 as well, they introduced more people to electric vehicles, via e-bikes, than Ford, VW, and BMW combined. Lectric was the first e-bike company to offer hydraulic brakes on e-bikes under $1,000. Most bikes go up to 28 miles per hour, have ranges over 50 plus miles, and bikes like their Expedition bike can drive 170 miles on a single charge. On top of that, they have over 75 unique accessories. I absolutely love how easily this bike changes gears, assists with pedaling, and accelerates with the throttle, among other things. On top of that, Lectric has partnered with Beast Philanthropy and other groups to better communities by donating e-bikes and helping build better infrastructure. To check out Lectric for yourself, click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen for a free bike cover on any purchase with code SHAW at checkout. This updated car also brings many other great improvements under the hood and in the interior. The ride quality has been greatly improved via a new suspension system, and the cabin will be significantly quieter thanks to things like acoustic dampening glass all around. The interior has been updated to have an LED light strip, aluminum detailing and premium textiles, and a new sound system with 15 total speakers. It also features ventilated front seats for better cooling, a touchscreen and powered seats in the rear, and improved connectivity hardware. Those features are all great and do a lot to make this car even more luxurious than it was before. One thing worth noting with the new interior is that it's actually making a slight sacrifice to storage capacity though. Tesla quotes that the new Model Y has 2,130 liters of storage space and the old model has 2,150. It's a really small difference that probably won't impact too many people, but it is a slight downgrade in a car otherwise full of upgrades. I don't think this would deter many people, and it probably isn't even noticeable. But if you plan to use every last inch of storage space in your car, then this is something, I guess, to consider. With that all being said, maybe all of those features just aren't important to you. Maybe you don't regularly have rear passengers, so that rear screen doesn't make much sense. Maybe you're not bothered by the comparatively bumpy and noisy ride of the current iteration. Maybe you're fine with the older style interior and don't care about added speakers. These improvements are all phenomenal, but at the same time, the older Model Y was enough for millions of people for many years, so not having these may not be a deal breaker for you. As someone who owns a refreshed Model 3, I think all of these upgrades will be fantastic. After trying them out, I don't think I could go back very easily. The ride quality is amazing compared to before, and driving my older Model Y really puts that into perspective. The ventilated seats were another major selling point that you may not expect. You don't realize how big of a deal it is until you try them, with no more sweaty backs on hot summer days. As much as I love and wouldn't trade these features, that may not be everybody's experience. Some people just care about having the necessities met and don't feel like it's necessary to spend extra money on things that don't matter to them. Additionally, some people may be purchasing cars to use for business or as part of a larger fleet of vehicles where these luxury features don't matter at all. If so, buying an older generation vehicle could be a great way to save a bit of money and fulfill your needs. So I guess one way to put it could be don't buy the new Model Y if you do like having a sweaty back. Another factor working against the refreshed Model Y is that they are not currently offering an updated performance trim. Much like with the Model 3, the performance variant will not be included as part of its initial run. The performance Model 3 came many months after the introduction of that car, but at the same time, it was much more than just a spec boost. On the outside, the previous iterations of these performance vehicles looked almost identical to their stripped-back siblings. With the new Model 3, though, they wanted that trim to have a unique look of its own, including a different front end, new wheels, colored brake calipers, a new rear diffuser, and special sport seats on the inside. It's a subtle difference still, but one that gives the performance version some added character. It's safe to assume that when the performance Model Y does arrive, it will get the same treatment as the Model 3. It's likely that it will have an altered exterior and interior to match its smaller sibling. At this point, we don't really have any details on this vehicle or how long it will be until it arrives. But if you have your heart set on a performance vehicle, you're probably going to want to hold off on purchasing until we see an announcement of that new version. If for whatever reason you don't want to wait or don't care particularly for any of the features of the updated Model Y with the performance trim, then maybe that current version will be great for you. If these extra features are still appealing to you though, then you do always have an option of buying the currently available Performance Model 3, which shares almost all of these upgrades just in a smaller form factor. Now, if you're truly a price-conscious shopper, you may be pulled towards the older Model Y thanks to the many inventory discounts out there. To start, Tesla often ships these inventory vehicles with big price cuts in order to clear out older stock and make room for new cars. Usually, they will offer additional inventory discounts for vehicles that were also used for demo drives. For the most part, these cars have been treated well, but they might have a few hundred miles on them. It's enough that Tesla can't sell these cars as brand new, but given their long lifespans, it shouldn't be enough for you to really have a reason to worry. At the same time, thanks to the arrival of the new Model Y, Tesla is offering additional discounts on these vehicles. In some cases, we are seeing cars with added discounts up to $2,500. That means that for some models with high-cost add-ons, you are effectively getting these options for free. Buying an inventory Tesla could be a great way to get some added options that you otherwise may not have splurged on, or you could simply just be looking for a better deal. If you are entirely budget conscious, then it's important to remember the cheapest way to get a Tesla vehicle: buying used. Shopping for a used vehicle can be a great way to get into owning a Tesla at the lowest possible price. It's very feasible to find cars that are only a few years old and have relatively low mileage for thousands of dollars off of their MSRP. Here's a 2022 Performance Model Y in the LA area, retailing for just over $30,000. For comparison, that same basic model today would cost about $51,490. Of course, the car that you're getting is far from new, but given how long the average Tesla is expected to last, that mileage isn't as big of a deal as it might be on some other cars. At the same time, select used Teslas are eligible for the $4,000 used EV tax credit. This credit, though, is only available for cars sold at $25,000 or less, and from an eligible dealer. Tesla is a part of this program, and you can sometimes actually find cars on their site that meet this criteria. These tax credits can have a huge impact on price if you find a used Tesla that sells for $25,000, and it would bring the price down to $21,000. There is some more that you should know about these tax credits, but we'll get back to that in a moment. Of course, when you buy a used car, there are certain trade-offs that you're making inherently. You're accepting a car that has had a whole life before its time with you, and that means you inherit all of its quirks, damage, and flaws. When you buy a new car, there are certain expectations that have to be met regarding build quality, condition, and more. Those same expectations don't always hold true with a used vehicle, since you're largely just taking it as is. With that being said, you may have certain concerns regarding a used vehicle's longevity that need addressing. Any used vehicle purchased directly from Tesla is still covered under the car's normal warranties, in addition to a special used vehicle extension. If the car is new enough or under the mileage threshold, then it will still be eligible for the basic vehicle warranty of 4 years or 50,000 miles, whichever comes first. Used vehicles specifically are given a warranty extension across the board of an additional year or another 10,000 miles, again, whichever comes first. This extension commences when the basic warranty ends, but if that already lapsed before you took ownership, it starts when you take possession of the vehicle. In addition, all Teslas are covered under their limited battery and drivetrain warranty. This gives you some assurance that even if your car has a decent amount of miles on it already, it should work for a long time after. The warranty varies depending on which vehicle and trim you have, but for the Model Y, it has two possibilities. The standard range rear-wheel drive Model Y is covered for 8 years or for 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. All other trims of the Model Y, including the long-range rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive Performance, and even the new Launch Series Model Y, are covered for the same 8 years or 120,000 miles. That warranty will cover any defects or unusual wear on the batteries that may occur during your ownership, giving you some extra peace of mind towards your used Tesla purchase. All of that is to say, if you are particularly price conscious and want the best deal possible for your Tesla, then shopping used for an older model might be for you, instead of buying this new car. You'll be sacrificing the new features that come with the upgraded model and also the inherent luxury of buying a brand new car, but in return, you'll be getting a reliable vehicle at a really great cost. Of course, there are other reputable dealers and ways to buy a used Tesla as well, so you have a lot of avenues to explore in finding a car at a great price. For example, Hertz has been selling off their rental fleet of Teslas for a while now, and they have cars on sale for less than $20,000. Keep in mind that some rentals may have more wear and tear than the average used vehicle, but you may be able to find a real diamond in the rough among them. If you want a car ASAP and are willing to accept the trade-offs that come with buying used, this is definitely a route to consider. I spoke a little bit earlier about the usefulness of tax credits for getting some really solid deals on an EV, and I want to return to that topic a little bit. If you've been shopping for an electric vehicle, you probably know a few things about these tax credits. First, these can be immensely helpful in making electric vehicles more affordable for those that qualify. In the US, there are 2 federally available EV tax credits: the used tax credit, which can go up to $4,000, and the credit for new vehicles, which is up to $7,500. The other thing you may know about these tax credits is that their future here is really uncertain. The new administration in the United States has made it pretty clear that they want to get rid of these EV tax credits. Even Elon Musk, whose company has benefited from these credits greatly over the years, wants to see them go away. It will likely take quite some time before it's on the chopping block, but it's safe to assume that it will be going away sooner rather than later. Currently, all trims of the Model Y qualify for the full $7,500 EV tax credit, both the new and old version. With that tax credit, it brings the price of the launch series down to $52,490 and the current all-wheel drive to $40,490, again if you qualify. So one benefit of buying now is that you're locking in your purchase with that tax credit discount applied, regardless of what happens to it in the future. Currently, the launch edition is expected to start deliveries in March, and we shouldn't expect prices to drop any cheaper for a long time after that. If we use the Cybertruck and its Foundation series as an example, Tesla didn't start standard production of that car for almost 11 months after it was released. We can't say whether the launch edition of the Model Y will truly last that long, especially since the Model Y is a much higher volume vehicle, but it might be a little while until you can order the base trim of that car. If you were thinking about buying a Tesla vehicle, you may feel greatly incentivized to order soon so you can lock in that tax credit before it goes away. The problem is, since we don't know about when these tax credits may be disappearing, it's difficult to strategize exactly how and when someone should order their new car. You may be someone who is really interested in buying this upgraded Model Y, but can't justify spending the extra money on this marked up limited edition. If you decide to wait for normal production, you may end up still spending more though, because the tax credit at that point could be gone. Conversely, you can order one of these older models right now, get the tax credit while it's still available, and get your car in a few weeks or less. If you can't justify this expensive launch edition and need that tax credit in order to make your purchase feasible, then ordering the older model right now may make sense. At the same time, you may just want to order one of these older models if you need the car as soon as possible. On their website, they say that deliveries are starting to begin in March, but there's no guarantee that that's when this car is actually going to arrive. The Model Y is the best-selling car in the world, and given how anticipated this upgrade has been, it could be a while before you get yours, especially if you're ordering now. So even if your delivery is only pushed into April or even May, if you need a car ASAP, then waiting may not be an option for you. To pivot a little bit here, let's look back for a second on Tesla's history of manufacturing and some of the problems that they face when introducing new products. As great as these cars are in many ways, it's undeniable that Tesla used to have a bad reputation for their build quality. As someone who has owned many of their vehicles over the years, I can attest that some lower VINs had more than their fair share of problems. It didn't detract too much from the car as a whole, but I've had plenty of visits to Tesla service centers to correct problems that definitely should not be in place on a luxury car, and especially ones that were even more expensive at the time. Still, Tesla is very responsive and has made many changes to their cars and their production lines over the years to minimize these problems. Now, 5 years after the release of those first Model Ys, they have really worked out most of the kinks. While the new Model Ys won't truly be starting from scratch, they will likely have some unique issues and quirks just by virtue of being brand new. Each successive new release from Tesla is having fewer problems than before, so this isn't as huge of an issue as it was in the past. But there will still likely be unforeseen issues that arise during full production. When you buy an older Model Y, you're getting a car that is as close to perfected as possible, after honing production over millions of models. With this new refresh, you're accepting the slight risk that your car will have those early production issues that may require attention. With that said, this new Model Y also does feature some improvements that were a direct response to problems with those earlier vehicles. While most maintenance on these vehicles is very minimal, Teslas are known for having a high repair cost when accidents happen. They took that into account when designing this car and made some changes to the body that seemingly will make the car easier and cheaper to repair in some cases. Take, for example, the hatchback. This was one of the more frequently replaced parts of these cars, and despite that, it was also extremely expensive. I unfortunately know about this firsthand. I had an older Model Y many years ago that was rear-ended on the freeway on 2 separate occasions, once while rented out on Turo and once while I was driving. When all was said and done, just one of those repair jobs was over $23,000. Thankfully, insurance covered those repairs, but in other circumstances, people could find themselves somewhat responsible for this, or insurance rates as a whole could be higher because of these high repair costs. On the new Model Y, Tesla has completely redesigned this car in a way that should make hatchback repairs much easier and cheaper. On the old version, this hatch was one solid component that had to be replaced entirely no matter how minor the damage might have been. Now, this has actually been separated into many more smaller pieces. This means that for minor damage, you only have to replace the affected portion rather than the entire back. This is just an example, but it goes to show that this new version will be incorporating lots of these little fixes and improvements that make ownership a little easier in the long run. There's not a clear answer here, but the difference in repair costs are certainly something to consider when picking up your new car. So maybe you don't want to buy the new one because you like higher repair cost? But of course, insurance is usually covering everything. On a related note, a huge factor to think about when buying any new vehicle is the cost to register and insure it. Newer cars cost more to insure, and that's on top of the already high premiums that Tesla owners tend to pay. The same goes with taxes and registration fees. Newer cars are more expensive to register than older ones. Most existing Model Y vehicles aren't old enough to really see much of an impact when it comes to these fees, but with the new refresh on the horizon, we could start to see older Model Y registration become cheaper as their sale price drops. As for insurance, it's tough to say how much premiums will be affected by this refresh. On the one hand, those easier and cheaper repair costs may drive down insurance rates, but at the end of the day, it's still a brand new luxury vehicle, and likely those insurance rates won't catch up for some years. If you have any desire to try to keep your premiums down with the Tesla, then buying an older model may be the way to do it by simply buying a cheaper version. So in many different ways, it's a lot more expensive to get this new Model Y, so you may just want to go for the older one. After a long wait, it's extremely exciting to see that the new and updated Model Y is finally almost here. We've spent so long speculating on what was or wasn't going to be in this car, and now it's a tangible product that people can place their orders for. With that said, it's really important to remember that just because something is shiny and new doesn't inherently mean that it's the best option for everybody. When you're deciding which version of this car to buy, make sure to really stop and consider exactly what your needs are and what will be able to fulfill them. My recommendation is this: if you want to and can afford the new Launch Series Model Y and don't mind waiting for a few months, then you should go for it. It has a ton of great improvements over its predecessor that already turn a great car into an even better one. On the other hand, if any of the things that we've talked about today give you any pause, it might be worth stopping to really consider your options. The older Model Y was and still is great, and you won't regret buying one if that's the choice you make. I'm personally very excited to get behind the wheel of this updated car though, to see how much it has really improved. And then I'm curious how long it takes for Tesla to drive down the price and actually offer those other trims of the Model Y refresh. That's all for this video, but in the meantime, if you're interested in the latest Tesla news, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.